Paul Skenes had some interesting things to say about the team. Andrew McCutchen might have had his last plate appearance in PNC Park. And of course, Ben Cherington had some words about his future and the farm system. Well, me and Ryan will talk about that more. And I guess thank you for listening to the North Shore 9 Power presented by FanDuel. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Bucco Brew, powered by Fer Coffee Tea. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we have Ryan Alexander, not Jim. This is wonderful. How you doing, though, Ryan?
Thank goodness. A better-looking Jim Rosati is here.
So. A much better Jim. Well, no. Don't let me say Jim Rosati. A much better Ryan Alexander is here.
There you go. And, yeah, it's going good. Glad I can pitch hit here and fill in for him as needed. Yeah, it's early, DiNardo. I don't know how you guys do.
Very early. It is very early, and I totally flubbed that new intro as well. I had some random audio started playing in my headphones, and I was like,
"There was no flub.
What is this?" Yeah, there's no flub. There's no flub. But yeah, so welcome to Bucco Brew, powered by Fer Coffee Tea. It's Ryan and DiNardo. I can't remember last time one of us wasn't on. I think you subbed in as well. Was it maybe for me? Was it you and Jim like months ago?
I think so. And I was trying to remember. I was thinking about that too. Like I was trying to remember if that was this season. It may have been, or may have been like towards the beginning, like the end of the off season or something. But yeah, I think I do remember filling in for one of these. It hasn't been for a while. So it either was early in the season or like even in the off season, I think.
Right. But yeah, so Jim's in Kansas City or something like that. He's just touring the world as he normally does. So you're on, and I think it's good because I'll have some little different perspective here. I mean, it's not often we get to hear your thoughts just on, general stuff. I mean, it's one thing about the post-game shows. You hear about the game and whatever, but like then we have these shows, get to talk into some detail about some different topics. And I think what we'll do is we'll start with the very first one, essentially Paul Skenes. Paul Skenes, also not a guy who talks often, right? This is the guy who's out there on all kinds of podcasts, although you do see him on a few, Mookie Betts for one. But when he speaks, I feel like you tend to listen. I feel like the last moment where he said some things that was very interesting was when Derek Shelton got fired. He's definitely saying about like this is a wasted season if we don't learn from this, if we don't move forward, we have to go ahead and use this like better ourselves and blah, blah. And he also kind of said like made it sound like you saw this coming.
Right.
So Paul kind of spoke again, with the season coming to an end here. And I felt like the biggest thing and biggest takeaway was more or less like, guys, we need to look in the mirror. And if we want to get better, we need to make some sacrifices. We need to do what it takes and sacrifice to make sure that we're good enough and we're better and we're here to win next year. And so I figure we'll start there. So I don't know, what was maybe your biggest takeaway from Paul Skenes speaking?
Yeah, it's interesting because like you said, when Skenes talks, you're just going to put more merit and stuff in it. It's more people are going to read anything they want to into it and kind of pick it apart and say, what's he saying here? I don't know, DiNardo, like in other sports, football, you have some of these quotes about, hey, guys need to, they didn't play as well. We need to perform better. You could kind of take this as calling players out. Obviously, he didn't say specifically like this player or Cruz or Reynolds or whoever. But yeah, he basically he was honest, I believe. He said about the sacrifices. I don't know if a lot of it was basically, we need to be better. And he had a quote in there basically saying, I think we'll go out and add some pieces, I'm sure, which I'm not as confident as you, Paul, on that. But he basically was just, the guys in the locker room that know they didn't play better, know they didn't play to their max and they need to, and guys need to get better. So that was kind of my main takeaway, because in football where like things are just real, everything is just overanalyzed to the 10th degree. Yeah, they would. Some people would call this calling people out, for the
Yeah.
most part. So, because Skenes wasn't one of those guys that needs to get better. Like he
Well,
did his job. He did
right.
get better.
I was gonna say, yeah, he used his own words and he got better himself some
Right.
weird, random, impossible way this year. But yeah, I mean, I did find it a little bit refreshing because, like you said, a lot of times there's just like empty quotes. I mean, you talk about this all the time, pressers and quotes at the end of the game from players, and it's just like I really don't care about them
Right.
because you're not going to get anything from anyone, and it's not as if you really got a whole lot out of this. It's not like he said, "Oh no, Cruz, you need to stop doing this," and Ryan Reynolds, you need to stop doing that, and Mitch Keller, like he wasn't like going out after everyone. It was a very generalized statement, but I felt like it was one that I guess I'll put it this way. Like you said, it wasn't direct. It wasn't calling out specific players, but it almost made me feel like this conversation has been had. And he's just more or less generalizing what has been spoken to inside this clubhouse to some level or some degree. And right, it's like, like if you guys want to win, you got to do what you need to win. It's like plain and simple. It's not his job to go out there and get guys. As someone as a leader in the
It
clubhouse,
should be. Can it be his job? Can he go get some guys?
maybe
That would be a better scenario for 2026.
right. But I guess like as a leader, I want someone who's going to say like we have the pieces to win. Like that again, like that's the accountability part. It's not an excuse like, well, look at us. If Ben doesn't give us anything, it's the accountability part is like I look at these guys in the clubhouse and I see a team that should be in the playoffs. And that's holding them accountable to that standard. You guys need to do what you need to do to get there. And you have to sacrifice some things to make sure you get there because I know how I live my life. And again, like I don't really know Paul Skenes that personally, but like he seems like a pretty boring guy who just loves fire trucks and airplanes and baseball. So like I'm sure he makes a lot of sacrifices in his life where it's like he could be out partying with Livy and doing this, whatever, but it's like, no, the focus is baseball. I need to make sure I have a sub-2 ERA next year and I'm in Cy Young conversations, through and throughout. And in order to do that, I have to sacrifice my life. I have to sacrifice the, decisions I want to do to make sure I'm that. And again, like that's kind of what I took from this. Like you guys need to do what you need to do to get better. No excuses. I'm tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, because it's fun. It depends on who it's coming from. If it's coming from Brian Reynolds, who he was struggling, he had a down year for him. If it's Reynolds coming out and saying, "Hey, we all need to be better," like he's talking about himself, obviously. Plus, we need to be better. When it's Paul Skenes coming out and saying it, it's a little different because Paul Skenes wasn't bad at all in most starts. So it's a little different, but he also talked about urgency, which we've obviously talked about it a ton. He basically said there's urgency to it. We need to understand that and act on it. That kind of like to me is like that's directed at Bob and Cherington. Like, yeah, guys, like you're not going to have Paul Skenes for 10 years. Like this is the time. Like this year, which is gone. Next year, 2027. Like this is the time. You have to act now. Like go get some bats. Go get some people, because there's urgency to it, and it's not people you guys have talked about throughout MLB. People saying Skenes needs to demand a trade, and to his credit, like you said, he's said all the right things. He seems to be a great teammate and a great just baseball player and stuff from a team perspective because he says all the right things. He could be out here saying, man, this team doesn't do anything to help me out or, to win right now. And I want out of here, but he doesn't. He says all the right things. He gets on a fire truck. He drives it around, gives some great memes for us. But yeah, he, like I said, he hasn't done that. So he's here. But I think this quote was kind of like, there's a time frame on this. Like the clock's ticking. Let's go out. Let's add some people. Now the question is Cherington and Bob Nutting more specifically listening? And I can't say that they are because, how do you not know that this is the time to go spend? And we haven't seen it.
Yep. And I did So again, going down that route, I found it kind of interesting because I felt the comments and quotes were also just vague enough where is he talking exclusively about the clubhouse, like you mentioned? I mean, everyone in this organization should be listening to what Paul said and taking those words personal. Because like I feel like it doesn't stop with the 26 guys in that clubhouse or like the 40 in total that are on the 40 man and such. It's like, not only us, but like Don Kelly, Ben Cherington, Bob Nutting, right? Like all of them can hear these words. So again, like, yeah, I did find it very interesting. And, Paul said it before as well. Like, he trusts, like, he did say too, like around the trade deadline, there was also some conversation about like they need some bats. Like he didn't shy away from that, and obviously, almost like he said this time, like obviously, I assume we're gonna go out there and acquire some or whatever, and that we need to do that. Like he's been very blunt to some degree, but like on a very professional level. Like he's not gonna play his hands, not gonna say personal things, attacking him. Like he shows like true leadership, but he doesn't really shy away. Like you ask him some questions, he does typically answer them quite open and honestly. It's just I don't want to say he's media trained, but he does it in a very professional way, as a true leader, not throwing people under a bus. But it is kind of refreshing to hear Paul speak.
Yep. And it is one of the last quotes in this article from Noah, where Skenes talks about you just don't go into the offseason like, hey, I'm trying to be the same player I was last year. It's going to take a lot of guys taking a look in the mirror, figuring out what it is that they need to get better and making sacrifices to do that. I read that quote and one player pops up in my head, O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
Like you need to go into next season and do the things. Don't just go in and be like, well, I'll do what I did last year. And like, you have to get better. So like, that's what kind of stuck with me with that quote. Because yeah, like he's going to be here unless something drastic and, they make some crazy trades, but he's going to be here and he needs to be better. And that's the kind of the one player that stuck in my mind. I don't know about you with that quote, but yeah, like he Cruz is definitely the one guy that needs to be better for this team.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, of course, that is like the one player that's probably going to pop in a lot of people's minds. But what I'll say also, and this isn't like this isn't to lessen anyone in this aspect of it, but I'm sure Paul's a lot closer to the pitchers than the hitters. And I'm sure he takes that more personal because I think a lot of pitchers, especially in this group, I mean, they're very young. The Mitch Kellers still probably look up to Paul and stuff, but like Mitch Keller knows what to do. He's a veteran, right? Like he comes in the offseason and he's like, I have a routine. He probably looks up to Paul. And again, I guess Paul's probably not speaking too much to Mitch, but there's a lot of young guys on this pitching staff. And I feel like too, also it's probably just talking more direct to them because this is maybe the conversation he's had with those groups. Like, and again, it's not saying that Ashcraft is having this problem, but it's like, hey, Braxton, like, I hope you're not coming into this offseason saying, okay, I had a really good year. I need to replicate that. Like, no, you need to go in the next year saying, I got to be better, right? Bubba.
Yep.
You had a very nice last two starts. I hope you're coming next year saying, I need to be better. Like I'm sure there's a more direct to those guys. I'm sure he has a better personal relationship with those guys, but it doesn't stop there, right? I mean, if he's a leader he's going to become a leader of the clubhouse and a face of the Pirate stuff, it does bleed out to everyone in the offense. And right, I mean, everyone on the offense essentially declined this year. So it's like you're saying, like he also said too, that like, hey, guys last year didn't have seasons they wanted to, and guys this year didn't either. And it's not to say those guys are the same people, but it's like we know that, like we know this is what happened. Like guys aren't going to always have the same type of season they had before, whatever. So that's a little bit disappointing. But like you also can't come into this year and saying like, okay, I had a good year. Let's just go ahead and do what I did last year. Like, no, you need to be better. We all need to be better. You can't. If you thought you had a good season this year, good for you. But that's not good enough because we're 22 games below 500 right now. We all need to be better. So you better have that mindset because my mindset's not, okay, I'm Paul Skenes. I won Rookie of the Year. I need to get Cy Young. And he's doing it.
He's going to, yeah.
And I don't know like what Paul, yeah, like I don't know where Paul goes from here. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to have that mindset, and I appreciate it. I don't know what better is for Paul, but again, like if that's his standard, he's making sure everyone else holds up to that type of standard also.
Yeah, because he said everybody in this clubhouse needs to be better. How does Paul Skenes get better? That's kind of a crazy thought, isn't it? I mean, he's already what, like
Somehow
top 3. You know, the thing coming into this year was efficiency and going deeper into games. I mean, he's what, top 3 in innings pitched, and they've been sort of I mean, he was. I don't know if it still is because they have been kind of managing some of the starts. But
like you said, that's even with the managing. So he is currently right now. Oh yeah, he dropped 14th. But I mean, it's so the next time he makes a start, he's probably going 5.
Yes, so he's in that top 5, top 10 area.
He'll put him in top 9-ish.
So like, do you just throw 200 innings next year and you're sub 2 ERA? Is that how Paul Skenes gets better? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's fun to think about. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, you make a good point about the pitching. There's, like you said, there's a lot of young pitching. There's a lot of young players in the team in general. So that's a good point about not just kind of going the status quo and coming into next year thinking I'm ready to go, and you end up struggling or having a down year or something like that. So it's a good point. It's just, Cruz kind of popped up in my head when I read that quote.
For sure.
But again, we're reading into some of these quotes when, who knows what he's really thinking of or talking about. But it's good that he's saying this stuff, because what have we seen from this organization in the past? I don't know, our lifetime. There's a lot of status quo that goes into this team, and they just come into the next year and it's like, oh yeah, we're the Pirates. There's no accountability, and we'll just, we'll do what we do. If we win a couple games, great. If we lose, who cares? So I like that he's saying that, like, don't just come in next year and, kind of just play, oh, I'm good now. I'm ready to go. I've mastered this Major League Baseball thing. Keep getting better, come in, show up, have accountability. And so it needs to be said, because there is a lot of, I mean, we've seen so many teams where just the vibes are gone and the team's just going through the motions, and that's what you can't do. And hopefully that's kind of what Paul Skenes was calling people out and saying, hey, we need to go into next year and keep trying to get better.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's a different level of accountability when like a player is talking about this, and especially like the way he's saying it also, because you heard it often. You're hearing it now from Don Kelly, but I mean, Shelton loved to be like, well, we just need to get better. At some points, okay, well, yes, obviously, but like how or what? Like we just need to get better. It's a very blanket statement, and you're a bad team. That goes without saying. How is it that you're trying to get better? That's what's important to me. Are you preparing more? Are you getting the guys in a better space? Are you practicing better? Like, what is it that you need to do? So again, like Paul wasn't like, we just need to get better. It's like, we need to make sacrifices. Like he dove in a little bit to that without revealing everything in the hand that he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, Paul spoke. I thought it's kind of refreshing. Of course, it's the end of the year, and I just feel like, like those are certainly like the words Paul lives by. I'm sure every day when he's asked to do something or told, there's something that pops up. The challenge is, how's that going to interfere with baseball? How's that going to interfere my career? And hey, all right, what I've done. I'll go to the Hamptons with Livy today. But tomorrow I'm doubling up on workouts or whatever it is. And that's how Paul lives. And of course, like, if you want to be great, you have to do things that provide greatness. And that's sacrifices. Like, that makes a lot of sense. You can't just go out and do whatever and say, well, you know what, I'm good. I just had a solid season. I'm fine. No, you need to be better. So
and that's why he's been successful and everything. I mean, that's, like you said, that's how he lives. And I know how they can get better. They have to somehow figure out how to play on the road next year, because they played really good at PNC Park, Donardo.
Yeah, they did.
15 shutouts now
in front of the buzzing home crowd all year long.
Right. So figure out
that's
that
what it is.
thing.
Maybe this team would succeed in 2020. Maybe that's the problem. There's just too many people in the stands when they're away.
There you go. Could be.
Yeah. So, anyways, speaking about the PNC crowd, this might have been Kutch's last plate appearance at PNC Park, or not. talk about a little bit here. Before we do, though, let's talk about our sponsor. So the Fer Coffee and Tea is a family and employed and operated business. They believe that coffee and tea are one of life's simplest and most accessible pleasures, and when enjoyed thoughtfully, can open your eyes to the here and now. They have 5 locations across the city of Pittsburgh, including their flagship in the heart of Pittsburgh's historic district. Don't forget to stop by the Fair's new location downtown on Penn Avenue, right across from the Benedum. Grab a cup and fuel up your walk to PNC Park. Mobile ordering is available. Check out their Instagram for more details. And of course, that is defair.coffee for the website. And if you go on the website, and Ryan, I know this is your first time, so I'm not going to hold you to it and say it, but if you go on the website, you can save 30%. Were you aware of that, Ryan?
I was, because I listen to Bucco Brew every week.
Were you aware? Yeah. So if you go on the website, it's your first time purchasing, you can input the code of NS930. That's NS930. Get 30% off your first order. And again, I mean, they have coffee, they have tea, they have all kinds of like items and merch and different types of products, and it's good on all of that. So NS930 gets you 30% off. You can do subscriptions. That's what I do as well. So every month they send me a new coffee. I just tell them like if I like light, medium, dark, and they just give me different type of brews, that fall into that category every single month. So it's kind of cool.
There you go. Good stuff.
There it is. There it is.
There it is.
Now back to the not so good stuff. So Kutch might have had his last plate appearance at PNC Park. Personally, I don't feel like it's over. Kutch says he wants to come back. I feel like the writing's on the wall that if Kutch wants to be back, he will be back. But nothing's ever given, right? We can't just accept that it's going to happen. We've seen crazy things. So this might have been Kutch's last plate appearance. How does that make you feel?
I don't know. Weird. It feels a little weird, but I'm with you though. I also don't believe that he's going to retire and be done or go to another team or something. Like I think they're keep bringing him back as long as he wants to, and he's still productive. Like that's the other thing. If he was just completely fell off this year and looked like he was done, I mean, I think he would know it and say, I think that's enough. But he isn't. I mean, he's one of the team's better hitters, which again isn't good news for the rest of the team, but it's also not bad news for McCutchen. It's just he's 13 home runs this year, 708 OPS. He's 98 OPS plus. Like he's right there as an average hitter. He still has some pop. He still 535 plate appearances. Like the dude just is a model of consistency. Stays healthy. He's out there. He's drove in some runs yesterday. He just keeps doing it. I think he'll be back. If it ends up being his last appearance at PNC Park, he got the standing ovation yesterday from you said, from the buzzing crowd at PNC. But yeah, I mean, just Kutch we've talked about the Hall of Fame discussion. I think it's out there. I think it's a conversation to be had. He's rated about 50 WAR for his career. And just, he's done it for 17 seasons, which is absurd. MVPs, Gold Gloves, back in the day. So that topic will be there, but I don't think he's done right in the chapter, right in the book. And I think he's got one more chapter left. And I think it's the postseason. Like, I think Kutch wants to experience the postseason, as does all of us, with the Pirates in the playoffs and Kutch on the team. And yeah, he's not going to be your 3 hitter in a playoff series, but he's going to be your veteran hometown guy that's hopefully, doing something. And I think that's what's keeping Kutch from fully calling it a career. Like, he knows that this team has talent on the pitching staff, and he knows that they're, we could say they're close. I think he believes that and wants to experience the postseason one more time, especially in Pittsburgh. So I think that's one thing that's going to bring him back.
Right. Yeah, there's like a lot of layers to this. Just starting by performance now, I've been one touting that if Kutch wants to be back, I want him back next year as well. He's been hovering around an average hitter this year. I want better. Like, I will say that. Like, I'm not bringing, like, I also, to make it clear, because I think there's a line here and people feel like I'm on the other side of the line where it's just like the token. Like, I want the token of Andrew McCutchen. I'm a huge fan of Andrew McCutchen. And as this huge fan, I'm waving. I want Kutch back and such. And it's honestly, I'm very disconnected in that sense. Like, I just want to win and construct a roster that can win and such, right? I mean, I do think Andrew McCutchen makes sense for business. I mean, there is that aspect of it as well. Like, if he costs $5 million, he'll make that back for Bob Nutting. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, this is like, I mean, it makes sense financially because, like, he will make that back. That helps. It's not going to happen to other players, and him costing $5 million also is something else because other players of his magnitude could cost more. Now, you can maybe argue that coming into next year. Okay, that's a fair argument at this point in time. But the guy has produced, and this year he took a bit of a step back. His first year here, a 115 weighted runs created plus. Last year was a 106. But, we all knew, like, April, he just got wrecked. Such bad luck, We were talking about that day in and day out about his numbers. And after April, it clicked and turned on. I was like, see, told you so. This year, it's right now a 97 weighted runs created plus. Again, not a huge difference from, about a league average, but it's under. Took him to step back. What's it going to be next year? Now, the thing about this year, opposed to all of the years, is he's played the most this year than he ever has. Part of that is just because, like, he's been the best hitter this team has had all year long and such as well. And so, like, when I say this, like, I want him back and I recognize the drop and such, like, I still also want him back, which is the same I talked for this year too, like, in a limited capacity. Like, he has been the best hitter, Ryan, and that helps him. Like you say, like, there's a lot of improvements that need to be made on this team. Like, my thing is, does it start with Kutch? Like, it doesn't. Like, I feel like he's down that list of needs. And when you have Bob Nutting as your money provider, you're not going to, excuse me, you're not going to be able to make all the changes you need to for those improvements. So I feel like the point of next year is to bring back Kutch in a limited capacity and having him be like your 7th or 8th best hitter. Like, that should be the goal, instead of being your top 4 as he's been every single year.
Right.
And that's why I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, but Kutch is also the guy you mentioned performance. Like, he's the guy. Yeah. So he had a 107 last year. Now he's down to about average 97 WRC plus. He's the kind of guy that even at the age of 39, I believe, would work his tail off in the offseason and come in next year and all of a sudden be a 105, 106, 107 WRC plus kind of hitter again. Like, he just there's no drop off. Like, he just keeps, doing it. He's going to hit, double digit home runs. I mean, he hit 20 home runs just as recent as last year. He's got 13 now. If he plays 3 games this week in the final 6 games, he's going to play the most games he's played since 2022, basically. So, like, I don't need to see Kutch back. Like, it's not one of those, like, I think Jim is more on the train of, like, hey, I want Kutch back because he's the greatest Pirate in our generation. Like, if he wants to come back, bring him back. I'm not, like, I don't, like you said, I don't need to see, like, I don't need to be like, oh, we have to have the number one thing next year in the offseason is bring Kutch back. I don't think that's it, but it just comes down to, the resources are limited. Does spending $5 million on bringing McCutchen make sense for a team that's probably only going to spend like $20 million or whatever, between like 3 or 4 guys that aren't really going to move the needle? But at the end of the day, are they going to better spend this money somewhere else? Probably not.
Right.
Like, they're not going out and signing somebody to $20 million, $25 million to bring in a big established bat. And because to do that stuff, you probably have to sign that bat to a 4, 5, 6, 10-year deal, to bring some big bat. And they're not going to allocate that much money to that many years for somebody like that. So it just becomes like, the money's really limited, but they're not going to spend it wisely anyway. So it's like, they'll probably bring back McCutchen. And again, he was one of your better hitters, which you have to be better. So that's where it's like it gets weird, because the money thing, you're like, okay, $4 and $5 million, who cares? But for the Pirates, it does mean something. But I don't trust our GM to actually go and spend it better. Because are you going to go get a DH only? I guess you wouldn't get a DH only for $5 million, and would they perform better than Kutch? Possibly. That's the other thing too. CL says is Kutch worth $5 million, at least at this point. That's true too. Like you said, if they are talking about bringing him back in a for real, like this time limited capacity, I remember us talking about 2 years ago. He was coming. He's probably not going to play every game, but he'll come back. But he still did it. But if they truly bring Kutch back and they say, look, we'll bring you back, but it's going to be more of like you play like 3 times a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe you sign him for $2.5 million, $3 million. Maybe it is less money. So, but even if you save some money there with Kutch, whether you bring him back on a limited contract or you bring him back $5 million, I just don't trust in this team to actually spend it wisely and correctly. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the money part will work itself out. I guess I'm not trying to debate if he's worth $5 million or not. They'll determine that. I think what we do know is Kutch doesn't really care about the money. I think Kutch is like, hey, I've made enough in my lifetime. I just want to be here, because like I think it was very clear, like he could have made more money elsewhere. He wanted to come back to Pittsburgh. The $5 million is kind of been like the token deal, right? The 1 year, $5 million. If that's going to be less next year, like so be it. But if not, I guess where I come from is talking about him being worth it isn't so much the production on the field. I think again, it's recouping that money. If you were to sign some random Joe Schmo for $5 million, are you recouping that financially? Other than Kutch, like you bring back Kutch, he's probably making you $5 million plus as far as like jersey sales. Like Kutch is back, you're going to profit off of that. Where if you sign Tommy Pham for $5 million, like you're not going to get the loads of people buying Tommy Pham jersey. Like you're not recouping $5 million
or Michael Tauchman or whoever.
Right. So like that's where I go to. Like Kutch is worth $5 million in the sense of he's not going to get. That's not going to be a deficit. Like it's not like I'm spending $5 million. That's where truly again, like I'm investing $5 million because I'm going to make that back. And again, like it sounds like what I'm saying is like that's why it also makes sense on a business aspect. Like it's a net zero as far as payroll goes because you're bringing that money back. Like that's what I'm alluding to. Like it makes sense on a business side as well. Now on the baseball side, I will put it. I mean, it is an argument to be made. Like anyone who says like Kutch isn't worth coming back, I'm able to listen to that argument. My point of view on it is, if you think they need to do this thing, then show me how they're going to do it while also making all these other improvements. And I just don't see that happening. And that's why I'm in favor of Kutch coming back, because that's one less problem that needs to be addressed this offseason, which is an offseason full of problems, So that's why I'm all for Kutch coming back. And again, limited, I think helps him. And it also helps your cases, the people are arguing this, of allowing other people to DH. Like Brian Reynolds DHing more is better for the team. And I understand that. The problem is what's also good for the team is not having Henry Davis at DH, because it's his turn, there's no one out there and like, who's your 10th best hitter on this team? If you have 9 guys and one guy's not DH, like that's the problem. Like who's going to be DHing if Kutch isn't there? Your 9 guys that are starting, who gets a day off? Who is it? Is your argument that I want less Kutch so I can have more Henry Davis's DHing or more Cam Devaney's DHing or more Canario's DHing? You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm alluding to. Unless you're coming out here and you're truly improving this offense, and now you can make this argument of like, yeah, there's plenty of players that can hit DH and we can spread that around, then sure. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because if Kutch says, hey, I want to come back and I'm good coming back on a 1 year, whatever, $3 million, $4 million deal, and the Pirates like say, we're going to kind of move on from this, you better be going out and actually, like you said, improving the lineup. Like, go get
Right.
somebody that's better than Kutch at that, price tag, or even a little more. Use that $5 million to actually go get somebody, or use that to pay more for one player. And it's just, we'll talk about coming up with what Cherington said about, trades and the farm system this offseason. I think that's where they're going to have to get creative, but because are you really spending $10 million, efficiently in this free
Right.
agency? And
Right.
they've shown they can't do it. They've said they've tried to get, they've offered multi-year deals to players, and they can't, nobody has accepted it. Whether that's true, whatever, but I don't know if they can spend the money better. And that's part of the problem. But I think they are in this sort of, they're not stuck in this trend where it's like, hey, McCutchen comes back, we have to sign him. I don't believe, they may feel that way. But again, like I said, I'm okay with not bringing Kutch back even if he wants to, but you need to go and get better. Like, you better have a better option. It better not just be, we'll DH whoever else we got left there.
Yep, that's my argument. Like, if you want to, then you better make sure that you've done everything to prove the argument to be correct. I just don't think they will. So to wrap this part up, so we can move on to, and also this is old. I didn't do the research again as of right now because I wasn't planning on having this conversation. But this was at September 5th. This is, again, like my argument, because CL makes a good point. CL says the DH spot is a premium position. And also he does say, at what point this offseason can we get out the pitchforks if they don't spend the money after trading Bednar and Hayes? And that goes part of this, right? Like, yes, like
December 25th, Christmas, get the pitchforks out.
Right. The reason you make these moves is you can go out there and improve the roster, like truly improve it, right? Mainly offensively. Hear me out. This is weighted runs created plus by position this year. The catcher spot, 72. First base, 93. Second base, 84. Third base, 58. Shortstop, 82. Left field, 73. Center field, 86. Right field, 94. DH, 107. The problem this year has not been the DH spot. The problem this year has been everywhere else, especially catcher, especially third base, and especially like left field. And so, like, that's where I'm coming from. Like, there's a big decision with Joey Bart and Henry Davis and that catcher spot. Like, what are you doing there? What are you doing at corner? What are you doing now as you traded Brian Hayes at third base? And then this gap at shortstop now. I understand Connor Griffin's coming, and hopefully that's the answer, but also Connor Griffin's in AA right now. Like, how much of an answer is that? So, like, there's so many ways that this offense needs improved. Is it the one spot that was the only spot that was above average this year that you need to address? That's, again, like, that's where I'm coming from. The DH was the only spot this year that was fine. That was acceptable. And I know Andrew McCutchen right now has a 97 weighted runs created plus. Like, he's technically right below league average. But again, like, Andrew McCutchen has been one of the least problems on this team this year. So again, if you're trying to improve the team, I'm trying to work on the weakest link and work my way up. And Andrew McCutchen isn't there at the bottom. And I just don't think you have enough resources if you're trying to improve the weakest link that you're going to reach Andrew McCutchen. Now, if you have a game plan that you can do all of that, then fine. Again, I just don't see this organization, because of Bob Nutting and Ben Cherington, even if it's a new GM. Now, if it's a new GM and he shows his magic, then okay, you know what? You show me the way. I just don't see this regime doing enough to reach the point where, and now Andrew McCutchen, you're next. Because if they do everything they need to do, that Andrew McCutchen is also a problem that gets fixed, then I feel like, then this team should be cooking next year. I just don't think they're going to be able to do that.
No. And I know you want to move on. One last note on his performance. We talked about, he's playing a ton of games, more time than we ever thought. Maybe he does need to be on a limited capacity, because this month in September, he's got a 580 OPS. And Kutch actually, his numbers April and May, he had his best. Well, I guess April, May, and June he had his best OPS. He had a really bad July, unbelievable August. He had an 851 OPS in August and just 580 this month. So like he probably is wearing down. I mean, the man is 38 years old. Like I get it. Like I'm no spring chicken myself. I get it. So if you do bring him back, maybe it is at a little less money, and it's hey, you're really only playing half the games or something. Don't get him 500 plate appearances next year. Like maybe 300 is the top. So
he's there every time a lefty's up, and then sporadically throughout.
Yeah, I think that would do him well and the team well as for next year and everything if they decide to bring him back. So
I agree. And I guess the one last point I want to make here, which is Kutch too, like because this is something you talked about. When I said, how do you feel? Right? How I feel is shitty. Because I do feel like, I mean, Kutch came back. He came back. He won. Like he called Bob Nutty. He just kept, like he said, like I'm in the Brewers and I'm just looking across there and he sees some talent. And like it felt like Kutch misses home and Pittsburgh's his home. He's made it very known, like Pittsburgh, and literally and figuratively, like it's his home. He wants to be here. He wants to finish out his career. And I do feel there's some unfinished business to him. Like you said, like he was a big part of the Pirates coming back to the playoffs and all the excitement and everything. And they failed. And I feel like Kutch recognizes that. And there was always just part of him. Like there's some unfinished business in Pittsburgh that I need to be part of to do. I need to get back to the playoffs and finish the job that I wasn't able to finish before they sent me away. He had no control of that. Kutch also didn't leave. Okay. He didn't dump this organization, didn't leave this organization. They threw him away. They traded him for, of course, it worked out, right? Brian Reynolds, but like they traded him. He had no control over that. They had 3 playoff runs. It was nice, exciting. They weren't able to go back, and they traded Kutch before they could do anything again. And he's back, and he saw a talented team. And I look at this too as just a complete failure. Like you had Kutch wanting to come back. He saw the talent here. It's three years you had him. I mean, during your rebuild, it wasn't the very first part of the rebuild. It wasn't the front. It wasn't like, hey, 2020 we're rebuilding. And Kutch like, okay, let me come back. Like the rebuild started. He came over because he said he saw talent. And for 3 years, you failed to putting around him to get him there. Like that's also what sucks about this. To me, this is where coming out of like the fan point of view per se, and just like in general, like Kutch came back because I felt like he, of course, wanted to be home, but like I felt like there's also a sense of like there's some unfinished business, and I know I can help. That's what we kept saying too. Like I'm here to play, I'm here to help the team. I'm not just a token. I'm here to go ahead and perform, and he's done that, and they've failed to get him back there.
They failed massively, and not just with Kutch, it's with Skenes because
but Skenes has a whole career ahead of him where Kutch is
true. But my point with Skenes is if you ever had a chance to sign him to some kind of extension, team friendly extension through the ARB years and kind of keep him, maybe you keep him around another year or two. If we were in a wild card race going to the playoffs this season, I think you'd have a much better chance to convince Paul, hey, sign this team-friendly extension. We'll keep you in Pittsburgh a couple more years. But again, this is the second straight year now. Skenes has seen the same status quo from the front office and everything. They failed, and I think you lost Skenes at this point as far as an extension goes. But so they failed not just in the Kutch aspect, but also with Skenes, and it sucks. But yeah, your unfinished business with Kutch, I think it's 100%. I think that's why he still wants to play and still wants to come back. And he's still productive enough to want to be back and do it. So, and I trust Kutch to even come in next year and play better, because that's just what we've seen from him. He's just a model of consistency and just keeps doing it, man.
And he still hits the ball well. He's striking out less. He's still he's doing all the underlying stuff still well. There's nothing to make me feel as if like this is it for his career. He's not like an MVP type hitter anymore, right? He's not like this well above average hitter. I mean, he's going to be about average, but about average right now is currently your best hitter on the team.
the skills are still there, especially his eye. Like his read of the strike zone and stuff has always been elite, and he still has it. Like you said, he's not striking out much. So yeah, it's just Kutch is Kutch. So
Kutch is Kutch.
That's right.
Well, the guy who's in charge of getting Kutch back to the playoffs, Ben Cherington, apparently feels no pressure of not having a job. No, I won't say he feels no pressure, but I will say, quotes, speaking of quotes, right, from earlier in the show, quotes came out from Ben Cherington, and he more or less says he's operating as if he's going to be back. The question was presented, right, like, have you been told about your future? Is there anything in discussion? And he's like, no, like, I'm operating as if I'm going to be here. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Honestly, like, I'm not taking too much from this quote. I mean, of course, it's a quote. You hear it. It just adds more to the story. But also, what did you want Ben to say? Like, what did you think Ben was going to say? It's probably going to be that. Even if he is on the hot seat, it's probably going to be like, well, yeah, actually, Bob said we need to win 5 more games or I'm fired. Like he's not going to say that.
Or you know what? I haven't heard from Bob since July 20th.
But the thing is that I would believe
that. Right.
Maybe he hasn't heard from Bob because he hasn't heard from Bob. That's just what it is. But yeah, like this is the stuff where like I don't take too much from this quote because also like Hurl got fired the last day of the job. We went into the offseason. It's like, we didn't know if Neil was going to get fired or not. And then he just one day got fired. Like one random day in October, I think it was, or something. And so again, like I don't take too much weight into what he said here. And even if the talks were there, it's like you were on the hot seat. Did you want him to really come out saying, well, actually, yeah, I got reprimanded. And Bob said, he said, here's the checklist I have to do if I want to keep my job.
Yeah, it's a GM quote. I mean, and Ben Cherington is the master of saying nothing. He throws his word salad out there, and he just kind of talks himself in around until he really doesn't say anything. I don't know. It's a little interesting. I don't know how they typically operate because he says, well, no, I haven't been no one's approached him and told him like, hey, you're back. But is that typically how they do it? Like they just wait to the off season and then they meet and they're, okay, you're back or whatever. So I don't know if that's like a break from how they normally, operate things, but yeah, again, what do you want him to say in this? He's not going to come out and say, yeah, Bob said I'm probably out, but we'll talk in October when the season's over, so he's not going to say that. He's operating.
But I guess the saving grace is he's not saying, oh yeah, Bob's told me I'm back. I guess that's the one saving grace.
That's where it's like, okay, but if that's typically how they operate, then it's really nothing. There's nothing there. But yeah, the Pirates really aren't the team that's going to do something like fire a GM midseason and stuff like that. So it would come after the season. But look, I've said it as far back, I think he's back. And it's just because I truly believe that Bob thinks he's doing an okay job because Bob just doesn't know any better. And I think, Bob wants to win, but I think there's enough here that Ben Cherington can say, hey, look at this pitching staff, Bob. Look at Paul Skenes. We have the best pitcher in the game. We're going to add to that. If we had Spencer Horwitz all year, if we had Nick Gonzalez all year, like look what we could have done. So I think there's enough here to save him another year, another season, because Bob does just seem to be behind, like he does these kind of moves. He does them late. He does them a year or two late. Shelton could have been gone 2 years ago. I mean, Ben Cherington could have been gone 2 years ago. But they're not, they finally got to the point where Shelton had to go this season, but they're just so behind, like when you should be making these moves. So I think he's going to give Ben at least another season and see, because again, we're all looking towards next year, 2026. Here we go again. And it's just more of the same. So again, all that change and how you operate, it all starts at the top. And unfortunately, Bob Nutting, just the status quo starts with him, Donardo. Like he doesn't know what's going on half the time. So that's the problem. So that's why I think Ben was always coming back.
Yeah, I guess I'll say this. Even Bob Nutting, I'm sure, doesn't think this is a good job. I'm not under the premise that Bob Nutting's bringing him back because he also feels Ben's doing a good job. What I feel could happen is Bob is just not a good business owner. Like he doesn't he makes money off of people failing. Right. He's like, oh, it's a failing paper. Let me go capitalize on that. He looks at the Pirates, say, oh, we got to fail. That's all. No, I'm joking. But anyways, what I'm alluding to is like he's just not a good business guy. Like look at the Pirates as a business. I mean, just a lot of dysfunction, a lot of they've been losers. I mean, to perfectly say it, as Tyler said,
loser. You're all a bunch of losers.
Right? I mean, that's the Pirates. That's the Bob Nutting Pirates. You can have the excuse of small market and payroll and this and that, but like other teams in that same situation have persevered for many more instances than the Pirates have. So I don't know if Bob Nutting is sitting back and saying this is a good job. I think even Bob Nutting is saying this is not a good job. But I think Bob Nutting can be talked into how I'm going to fix it and believe in that, because I think Bob, for one thing, if they do get a new GM, I'm sure Bob is not saying rebuild. I'm sure he's not saying like, okay, come in, start this over. Like the task will be, you got to continue, right? Like I can't go through another rebuild. And I think Bob could live in his fears of he's not going to be able to find that GM to do so. So let's hope and pray what Ben's telling me is true, because Ben's going to tell him that, hey, like you said, Spencer, this, that, and the third, this is why we lost. Now with Donnie here, we're better. Look at this farm system. That's other quotes we'll talk about here. Like Ben Cherington talking about how the farm system is better right now than it was 12 months ago. And what's good about that is like, there's reasons like to use that for trades this year. We need to make trades and we have that behind us. Like, I feel like he's talking to Bob Nutting through the media on a lot of this. Like, hey, look what I've done with this farm system. Connor Griffin's here. Now that I have these pieces, I can go ahead and make the MLB roster better for next year. Plus Spence will be there. Like, guys, the future's bright. That's his selling point. That's where I think Bob understands it's been a bad job, but I'm afraid of getting a new GM or being able to find a new GM to do what I need him to do. So let's just pray you do it. And if you don't do it next year, I have to fire you and I'm in a shitload of trouble.
Yeah. And you said Bob isn't a good business guy. See, I kind of disagree, because if at the very bottom line, does the team make money? The team does. And that's all, at the end of the day, that's all Bob cares about. I mean, we think, there was articles saying that they lost money, whatever. I don't believe any of it. As long as they're making something, I think Bob is happy. And Bob thinks, hey, why would I need to spend 50, 60 million more dollars when we can be, if we win, great. But if we lose, people still come out to see Kutch, and I make money. So on that aspect, is he a good businessman? In that aspect, maybe. Now, is he a bad baseball man? Yes. And that's where I think he just doesn't have the baseball knowledge. And I don't think he's connected really around the game too, to, like you said, hey, I need a GM like a Dave Dombrowski that can come in and say, look, you've had a farm system, you've had prospects. We're going to trade all of these guys and bring in a freaking team that's ready to win now because you have Paul Skenes. I don't think Bob understands that and knows that there's a guy like Dave Dombrowski or those guys that can come in and kind of put the cherry on the top and put a winner together. He's just not really connected around the game, and I don't think he really listens to anybody in the front office or around him. He's just surrounded by, I envision it as he's just surrounded by a bunch of yes men. And yeah, sure, Mr. Nutting, that sounds great.
I don't even know if he's surrounded.
Or that said, is he even surrounded by anybody? And he's just kind of doing whatever. Nobody really cares, and they're just like whatever. But he's just not a baseball guy. He doesn't know what he's doing in that aspect. I mean, they had to go get Corn Ferry to go get a GM. We did a lot of stuff on that back in the day. So like, it's just, he's not connected. And that's why I think ultimately he's going to say, look, we have Connor Griffin coming. We have these guys. This pitching staff's elite. We got 15 shutouts at home, 19 shutouts on the year. We're close. So let's just keep Ben in there. Let's have him finish this off and see what happens. And that's why I think he's ultimately gonna be here next year. And the other thing too, with he can throw the manager thing out there, like you said. I think he bought himself a season with the manager change, which
Potentially.
good Lord, it should have happened a long time ago, but whatever.
But that was also his decision.
Right.
Yeah. But how about this? I mean, speaking of managers, it's a topic you want to talk about, and it kind of makes sense because, I mean, hey, the Pirates are going to be playing the Reds this week. There's 6 games left, 3 of them against the Reds, and the way the Mets are just dropping, can't win games, like they're allowing the Reds to potentially get into the playoffs, which means there'll be 3 teams from the NL Central in the playoffs. Of course, the Brewers, the Cubs, and potentially the Reds. And why is that? I don't want to say important, but why is that a reference or something of note? Well, for one, I've been touting about the Cubs and Reds for years now because when they were making moves back in 2022 that looked kind of suspicious, like, hey guys, you might need to look out these guys because they just started to rebuild and it's looking better than us already.
Exactly.
And the NL Central is very winnable, which is I know why we are kind of talking about accelerating this rebuild for some time, because like there's a window here. If you want to really push to capitalize on this window, like now might be the time. Let's push on it, especially because now the Reds and Cubs have officially thrown in a towel 2 years after you did, Ben and company. Maybe push and do so because they've made some really fine deals that look good and they might be back pretty close. And here we are now, 2025. They might both be in the playoffs. And the Pirates are 22 games below 500. So, but the other thing too about this though, Ryan, is we thought Derek might be fired. Like Shelton's got to go. And he came back. And what was really interesting was there was a manager that was available that they could have had in Terry Francona, who went to the Reds. Apparently Ryan's power just went out. So he's coming back on. But so Ryan wanted to talk about this. Naturally, of course, the topic he wanted to bring up and talk. But yeah, we want to talk about this because that was interesting. Like, is this the year Shelton comes back? And he did. The Pirates chose to continue to go with the status quo to bring back Derek Shelton, even though they fired him a month and a half into the season. But, they decided to go with Derek Shelton at this time. And the Reds said, you know what? This isn't good enough. We need to go out there and get a manager. We need to go out there and get a strong leader, a strong voice. We need to go out there. Terry Francona is back and available. We need that guy. And the Reds went and got that guy. And here we are. When you look at the 2 teams before the season, they felt like they're kind of evenly matched up in different ways, right? But like both of them were probably on the outside looking in on the playoffs, but very close. Again, like I think a lot of people felt the Pirates were probably about a 500 team, give or take a few games here or there, but you can certainly see them being about 500. And if you're about 500, a few games go your way here and there, you might be a playoff team. The Reds, I felt like were kind of the same situation. They might not have had the strong pitching that the Pirates had to get them there, but the offense certainly looked good. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz, McLean at the time, like there was a lot of guys, especially the young guys coming up, right? There's a lot of talent offensively. Maybe if they get something going with the pitching outside of just having Green, they made a trade also with India to get some pitching. So like they're making some moves. Maybe they just needed that voice. Maybe they just needed that guy to take the lead and to get them over that hump. And they felt it was Terry Francona and they went and did that. Whereas the Pirates said, no, we're good with Derek Shelton. And these 2 teams are in very different situations right now. So is it just the manager, Ryan?
My power just went out, like typical Pirates fashion. Just power's gone. Good stuff. Thankfully, it came back on. It's not even storming here. Not sure what happened there. So I don't know how much you've gotten into this, but yeah, basically, it's the age-old question, Denardo. How much does the manager matter? And these 2 teams, the Reds and the Pirates, which again, you mentioned they're playing the Reds this week, they have a great chance to play spoiler. So we'll see we'll see what happens with that. But the fact of every projection system, Fangraphs, MLB, everybody had the Pirates and the Reds basically one win apart. What was it, like 76, 77 wins was where both teams were kind of projected at preseason. Well, here we are. Everybody tells me, oh, Terry Francona, it doesn't matter, whatever. Manager doesn't matter. Whatever, we have Don Shelton, or we have Shelton, and we have Don Kelly. The Reds are 13 games better than us right now, when every projection system told us these teams are about the same. The Reds are overperforming. The 76 wins are at 80 right now, and the Pirates are way underperforming. So to me, I mean, what's that tell you? Because you can't even really, it's not like we lost Paul Skenes for the whole season or something. Like, he was here. Yes, we lost Jared Jones, but my goodness, we had a lot of other pitchers since then come in and perform very well. So there's really nothing you can point to other than, was the projection system that far off on the Pirates, or does the manager play a role in the fact of, I don't think it's a 13 game difference per se, but maybe the manager helped the Reds 5-6 games that way. And us having Derek Shelton, who was horrible, hurt the Pirates 6 games in that direction. So I think it does matter. And here it just shows it again, where the Reds they're going for a wild card this week. We're going to see it in Cincinnati, these next 3 games. And I mentioned before, I don't even know I think it was before the offseason, like, why don't you give Francona a call? And people, oh yeah, that he doesn't want to manage anymore, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, he did apparently. And hey, it might not have been for Bob Nutting, but again, you make your bed. That's what happens. You can't get free agents to sign multi-year deals. Apparently you can't get guys like an experienced manager who's won before. You can't get them to your team either, but they probably didn't even call or make that due diligence call to say, hey, Francona, you're from Pittsburgh, like you're from New Brighton. Are you interested? Could you finish this team off, put them, to become a winner? We didn't even make that call. He ends up getting in touch with the Reds. The Reds bring him up, and now he might be in the playoffs. Go figure. So it's just, I thought it was interesting in the aspect that, and it's hard to quantify how much a manager does matter for the team. How many wins do they attribute to? But I think it matters. I think Francona is obviously light years ahead of any kind of game manager that Shelton was, like just game to game, in-game decisions. And then there's the vibe in the clubhouse. And I know that Shelton, the players love him. Well, that's great. But at the end of the day, you need some success too. So I don't know if Francona holds these guys to a better standard, if it's just something they do internally that they have more, game planning, or he's just loose with the guys and they just respond to him. But something is different. And I think there is something to it that says the Reds just are having a much better season than the Pirates, when every system told me they were about the same.
Yeah. So like a few things on that. I don't know how much the manager matters as far as wins and losses either. I mean, that's the age old question. That's always be something that you probably can't quantify to truly say, but I think there's certainly things that matter as far as press and such. So I keep going back to this. So, like, to me, when you look at Francona and Madden and the Cubs and Guardians, of course, Indians at that time, World Series, Francona outmanaged the hell out of Joe Madden, and the Cubs still persevered. Like, you can be a great on the field manager, know all the X's and O's, know how to pull all the right stops and everything, and still lose and such, right? Like, so again, like, how much does the manager truly matter if not the players? But what I think the manager really matters in is making sure the players are ready. Like, knowing your guys, you have 162 games. How are you going to win through this full year with those 162 games and do so? How are you going to have your guys mentally prepared to do that and everything? And so, like, that's where I say, like, yeah, Derek Shelton, there was a lot of traits that I liked from him, right? He might not have been great on the X's and O's, but there's a lot of things like behind the scenes that I did like. Like, I felt like he did those things better. I'm not saying he did great, but like the stuff that he did better, Juan, was that stuff. You go about, the guys like Derek Shelton. I felt like, to me, on the outside though, like, why do they like him? Like, why do Why do players in Miami like Mike McDaniel? Why, but I say this in the sense of like, is he just one of the guys? And if you're just one of the guys, do you like him because he's one of the guys, or do you like him because you respect him and he puts you in the best situation? So I'm going to say something. This isn't Terry Francona, but this is something I heard yesterday and it just resonated. So when you want to talk about this, like, you know what? I love it. Pat Murphy with the Brewers doing a fantastic job. I mean, again, the Brewers also kind of the same situation in the sense of outperforming what you thought they were going to do, right? Like we didn't think the Reds were probably making the playoffs this year, and then they're maybe bound to with Terry Francona there. The Brewers, that you keep thinking like, okay, this is the year they'll regress, and they're still there, and if not better, right? They lose a manager council to the Cubs, who gets paid a ridiculous contract. It's like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And as Pat Murphy comes in, it's like, oh, the Brewers are still there, and now the Brewers are like the best team in baseball. And he said something, at least I heard it yesterday, which is very interesting. And I think a lot of us know about the Sal Frelick situation. To go back to it, Sal Frelick didn't hit a cutoff man. Sal Frelick did not hit a cutoff man. And Pat Murphy benched him. We're not talking he's made his third error in the same series. Sal Frelick didn't hit a cutoff man. And Pat Murphy benched him. That's something we all know. The thing I didn't know afterwards they're asking him about it was, did you say anything to Sal? And he was like, no, I didn't talk to him one bit about it. I know Sal. I know that feeling he had. He knew how much he let down the team. I know that feeling just killed him. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to say anything. And they came back and said something else. And it was like, what do you talk to Sal about and this and that? And he's like, I don't say anything nice to Sal Frelick. I don't say anything good to him. He goes, I know my players, and I don't ever say anything nice to Sal. I say every day he wakes up, I say, you're still doing this? It's like, you're 5'9", 170. You're not there studying for your CPA. It's like, you're not going to last in this game. What are you doing here? And like, it just like that moment just hit me like, that's what we're talking about. Like, that's a leader, knowing what you need to do to motivate your guys to get them there. He knows how to push Sal Frelick's buttons and to make sure he's in the situation every single day that he's best to perform and he's ready to go. He's not going to give Sal any love. That's not his love language. Sal apparently needs to be told you're not going to do it. He's probably had everyone against him, right? Yeah, I guess he's 5'9", 170. Everyone's probably told him all his life, you're not going to make it. And Pat knows that, and he's going to feed in that and keep pushing those buttons because that's what puts a fire under Sal and gets him out there every day performing. That's knowing your guys, and that's that accountability. And that's what makes a true leader in the clubhouse. It's not that, hey, you all love me and we get along because we're all friends. It's, I'm the leader in this clubhouse. I'm going to make sure you all do the best of your abilities, and I'm going to get you there. And I'm going to make sure you maintain it throughout this entire year. That's that type of leadership that I think you never had in Derek Shelton. And that's what you might have in a Terry Francona and this Pat Murphy. And that's where the difference comes into. Again, the X's and O's on the field, maybe not, but is helping O'Neal Cruz stay in the game every single day and making sure he's a 120 weighted runs created plus hitter and a 4-WAR player opposed to still like a 1.5 WAR player and well below average. Like, what difference does that make? Making O'Neal Cruz that type of player so the players are getting you the wins is what matters. And that's what I think this team has been missing for many years.
It has. You're absolutely right. And look, so the Brewers, Craig Counsell left and went to your rival, went to the Chicago Cubs. It's like, oh my God, what are they going to do? They go and get Pat Murphy, who you just mentioned all the stuff he's doing, leadership. The Brewers are the best team in the league. So like, they didn't panic. They went out and got somebody. People say, well, who are you going to get if they got rid of Shelton or Kelly or something? There's guys out there. But look at the Brewers. Like, they're in a better spot than they were with Counsell. But yeah, knowing your guys, like you say, you're not just a drinking buddy. Like, you're going out and, the players love us. The players probably would love Derek Shelton because when you go 0 for 30 in a week, he's still going to play you. Like, so why, of course you'd love him. There's no like accountability or anything on the team. So you need to have respect. You can have, people like you, but you need to have respect too. And that's a kind of a fine line. But for these guys, like a good manager, knows his players, knows how to approach that player and how to kind of pull their maximum out. And they might not know it for every single player, but they try to figure each player out and knows what works with them. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And this isn't a Don Kelly thing too. Like I think Don Kelly has done a better job than Shelton, but I think like a monkey might have done a better job than Shelton too at the same time. So I know I've kidded around on Twitter and stuff about, hey, Don Kelly baseball and everything. And, look, do I want Don Kelly for sure next year? Not really. Like if you went and got somebody like Terry Francona, but obviously he's got a job now, but if it was somebody else, I'd be fine with it. It's just the fact that Shelton needed to go and Kelly is better in that aspect because they have played better overall than with Shelton. But it's just something I thought we'd touch on because it just seemed relevant with the Reds coming up, with the Reds in the wild card hunt. They might be going to the playoffs, and everybody told me, "Oh, we're going to finish ahead of the Cardinals this year." Donardo, how'd that turn out? Once again, we're behind the
wrong.
Cardinals. So yeah, brutal. So yeah, but yeah, I do think the manager matters in that aspect. It's hard to quantify it by wins and losses, but obviously in game decisions. But it's the clubhouse stuff. It's how you lead these guys, how you work. It could get into the whole Mike Tomlin thing here in Pittsburgh, like with the Steelers. Is he a player's coach, and that's why everybody loves him? But what have you won recently? So
Right.
it just how prepared do you have these guys when they keep going into games on the road and they start out so slow and stuff like that? So I think there's a bunch of different layers to it, but I think the manager does matter in that aspect, multiple aspects really. And this all is summed up to say, I wish we had Terry Francona managing this team. I'd also like better players, a better lineup, but I would also like Terry Francona.
Right. Yep. There you have it. And I'm with you. Again, I am of the mindset of a manager matters. I know there's a lot that it's on the players, like whatever, Neil being one of them. This is my pick on Neil for a second here with what do you want Shelton to do? I get it, but he can still do what he's in control of, right? Like that's just an excuse. That's just an excuse of, well, I'm just a manager. I can't. No, you have power in what you can do. You can control the controllables, so control them. And I just didn't see that he was doing that. So, anyways, that's going to be why this series coming up is interesting because the Pirates have a chance to play spoiler. I mean, they can go ahead out there and beat the Reds and get them and knock them out of the playoffs. But as we talked about earlier this episode, the Pirates don't play well on the road. They don't play well in Cincinnati. No. And that's what they'll be doing. And if Cincinnati goes out there and beats the Pirates, that helps them get into playoffs, which just makes that blow even harder.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't, they don't play well there, but it seems like when they go to like hitting parks, at least maybe they'll hit the ball. Like the hitting, our poor hitting team will maybe a couple more balls will go over the fence. But hopefully our pitching can pitch in that park. But Brian Hayes, we'll get to see him. But yeah, it'll be.
I'm not sure if we will.
Is he out?
Update. He's been injured.
Oh,
his back. His back's flaring up again.
Oh, I thought you said he is.
So
go figure. Well, maybe not.
He might be back. Okay. He did play. He's back
yesterday. So there you go. We'll see Hayes. Which he's hit better, but again, it's a hitter's ballpark. So, but yeah, you got 3 games against him. Like you said, can play some spoiler, and it's. Are you ready for postseason baseball, Donardo? Even though we won't be seeing the Pirates in it.
Yeah, I am. By the way, Cabrian's 0 for his last 25.
I bet you he'll turn it around against us. You just watch.
Wait. Well, here's the thing. So Ryan, the Ryan FanDuel lock of the day is going to be the under on Cabrian Hayes, whatever the hits are, right?
Oh, I was thinking over or Hayes the homer.
There you go.
We'll see what odds,
but it has to be the under.
See what odds we get.
He's 0 for 25, so you're clearly taking Hayes isn't going to hit a home run.
Right. Well,
so then he will, and the Pirates will lose, and people will make money.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you got to fade me. So I'll go unders on all that. I'm telling you, when I go against the Pirates, man, they look at that. I went under yesterday. They score 11 runs. They explode for 11 run outburst. So yeah, it's I have the power. So maybe I'll just go Reds all series, and the Buccos will sweep them.
Well, thank you, He-Man. All right, so we're gonna wrap up here. Let's get out of here.
Yeah,
how'd you enjoy your Bucco Brew?
It was good. I enjoyed it. You know, the power went out there for a minute, but came back on. Not sure what happened there, but it was good to pinch hit and fill in every once in a while on these. And yeah, it's tough because you get in these post-game shows and, you know, you want to talk about the game. You don't want to just talk about the same stuff for the off season or, you know, the team in general or moving forward. So this is, it's nice to come on here and get some of these things off my chest. So appreciate having me on.
There you go. And we appreciate you all
everyone
for listening. So go ahead and like, subscribe, click the link for our Patreon, join our Discord, do all the fun stuff. But this is it. This is the last week of baseball. 6 more games, Ryan. That's just wild to me. The offseason is going to be here soon. So the next time you hear us on Bucco Brew, it'll be the offseason.
Yeah. You guys going to do a big recap season or recap show next week?
We will. Oh, I don't know if it's going to be next week, but yeah, we'll have some recaps. We'll have our fanboys probably. We talked about this. It's probably going to be. So I know we brought this up before, but we're going to the Arizona Fall League October 16th and the 19th. So the fanboys are probably going to be after that. We have some things lined up beforehand as well. And again, the recap of the season, our over and unders.
Over-unders. Yep.
I'm not happy to see those.
not looking forward to those, huh?
I'm not looking forward to those. But yeah, so I don't know what next week will be, but certainly a lot of fun stuff coming up, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to postseason baseball. I find it completely nuts that there's there's a week left in the season. And as of yesterday, not one AL team had clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Now the Blue Jays did clinch yesterday after their win. But I mean, like the Tigers might just completely miss the playoffs. They play the Guardians this week, so huge series there. But they are those two teams are trending in the wrong direction or different directions. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Again, shout out to the Blue Jays and actually, the Guardians. Guardians they've come up.
Yeah, I think I will be rooting for the.
Wouldn't
Blue
it be
Jays.
nice if you had a market size like the Guardians and had just 2 losing seasons since 2013?
That would be nice. That would be nice. Speaking
That's
of,
why
Francona.
Bob is not a good businessman, by the way. But I digress. We'll see you guys later. We'll be back for the post-game show tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube, if you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.